Talk to Me is directed by brothers Danny and Michael Philippou, I think is how you say it. And this is their directorial debut. These guys actually originate from YouTube. You can go to their YouTube channel, Raka Raka, and they actually just put out a video recently documenting a little bit of their filmmaking experience with this film. So definitely check out Raka Raka. I think it's so cool when you see these YouTubers and content creators online building up enough fan base, building up enough support to be able to find the financing to create a feature film. It's really inspiring, actually. Talk to Me stars Sophia Wilde as a teenager named Mia who's dealing with grief of her mother's unexpected death 2 years prior. When a group of high schoolers start posting videos online about possessions, she and her friends Jade and Jade's little brother Riley go to a party to check it out. Mia volunteers to try out this possession out of skepticism, and before she can do the possession, they lay out a few ground rules. First, that you have to light a candle for the spirits to find you. You have to grab the hand and say, "Talk to me," for one to appear. And finally, the most important rule is once you've done the possession, you can't let it last longer than 90 seconds. I've got to say, 2023 is off to a great start for directorial debuts. There's a few other directorial debut films that I have to go out and see. Another one that just came out this past week is Shortcoming, which is Randall Park's directorial debut, and then a few more coming down the line later in the year. But Talk to Me is just great horror. I'm not a super big horror fan. I'm honestly kind of a scaredy cat, but I can appreciate the genre and I can appreciate what it does for cinema and filmmaking in general. And these guys bring such a fun and unique perspective to cliches and to a genre that has been done over and over and over again in Hollywood. For a film with such a simple premise, it feels so fresh and unique, which is something that great films always find a way to do. Speaking of great films, this film does something that a lot of great films do in telling you what the story is going to be in its opening sequence, like a mini movie within a movie. This film starts off with a really impressive oneer, and it's kind of the prequel to the story. It doesn't really relate too much to it. It kind of shows what happened to the last victim of this hand that caused a possession and the aftermath of that. But again, it shows you exactly the story and the journey that you're going to be going on and some of the ideas and themes that are going to be explored in this film. And those ideas and themes are grief, loss, depression, suicide, addiction, a lot of them which aren't unique to the horror genre, but again, allow for a fresh perspective. And that's something that this film does that's really unique, is whenever these kids do these possessions, they're playing it off like a euphoric hit, like it's some sort of drug that gives them this incredible feeling afterwards. And that's why they keep going back and doing it over and over and over again. And I just found it really compelling of a analogy for how we can cope with things that make us feel better and all right, to deal with tragedy, grief, and loss. But in reality, it turns out to be the thing that destroys us at the end. Another thing I love about this film is it kind of gives a unique perspective to possessions. Normally in horror, when there's a haunting, you'll see people flying around rooms and being tossed into walls. And this whole movie is played through Mia's perspective. So we never see any other spirits when they're going about their possessions, except for when Mia is doing it. And so as the story progresses, as these demons and spirits have latched onto her and are manipulating her and attacking her, there's a sequence where one spirit barges into her room and starts attacking her and throwing her around, and we're seeing this wrestling and this back and forth, and then another character comes in that isn't involved in these possessions at all and just sees her being choked out on the ground and thrown around like you would normally in a horror film or with a possession. So I thought that was just a really unique twist in perspective on what we've seen so often in the horror genre. Our lead, Mia, is played by Sophia Wilde, and she is absolutely brilliant in this film. She gives a lot of depth and a lot of layers as a teenager who's just dealing with how to communicate with the rest of the world, but also dealing with tragic loss of her mother, a broken relationship with her father, latching on to another family to fill voids that have been caused by the tragedy, loss, and depression in her life. It's a very nuanced and layered performance that carries this film all the way to its finale. This movie also has a really great ending. It kind of highlights at the end all of the ways of how this specific spirit that has attached onto Mia has manipulated her and used her grief and loss as a way to trick her into doing the things that they wanted and to achieve their goals. And all of that, again, is highlighted in the last sequence, which is a really great twist with a moment that really circles everything back to the beginning of the film. Yeah, overall though, guys, Talk to Me is fantastic horror. If you are a horror fan, you need to go out and see this film and support it. It's already quadrupled its budget, but also we want to continue to support films like this that are pushing the genre a little bit farther, that have unique and fresh perspectives, and two guys that clearly know what they're doing from a filmmaking standpoint, to support them so that they can continue to create great films like this. Talk to Me is definitely one of my favorite films of the year so far, and for me, the best horror film that I've seen of the year. So guys, that's just about gonna do it for me. If you like these movie reviews, make sure to subscribe to Dude Reacts and The Fellow Dude on YouTube. Until next time, see you then.